Okay, so the first idea we're going to be looking at is the idea of the preventative sacrifice. So the preventative sacrifice is when you sacrifice a piece to keep the king on the board. So we will see that in this game. It starts off as an Italian game. Okay, so here, the normal move for white to play would be bishop d2, where then after knight takes e4, then bishop takes b4, and then knight takes b4. White will regain the piece, or white will regain the pawn by taking on f7. And then it'll be a pretty normal game. It's pretty equal in development, and both sides are have attacking ideas. But however, another variation for white to play is to play knight c3. So here, when white takes when white plays knight c3, it allows black to take the pawn on e4, and then after knight takes e4, white actually castles and allows another pawn to be taken. So this position, white is behind by 2 pawns. However, what white does right now is play to play bishop a3. So what's the main? So just think for a bit. What's one of the main advantages of bishop to a3? So why would playing bishop a3 be worse, losing 2 pawns?
Is it because if the bishop went to a3, it will prevent the opponent from going to e7 or castling?
Yeah. So when the bishop goes to a3, it controls this diagonal, and now the black king can't castle or really or move the king. So this is a pretty aggressive move because now white has sacrificed 2 pawns in exchange for keeping the black king in the center. Here black plays let's see, d6. So as you can see, this bishop could just take the rook on a1. However, this isn't good. So because white has a tactic, so just think for a minute, and what's white's tactic after black plays bishop takes a1? And remember that this bishop is controlling this diagonal, so this king can't really move right now.
Rook e1.
Yeah, and rook e1, and then after knight e7.
Rook e7.
Yeah, rook takes e7, and then king could go to f8, and then it's a pretty classical tactic where now the discovered attack allows white to gain a bigger advantage. So taking on a1 wouldn't be good for black. So instead, black black has two options here. Black can play d6 or black can play d5. So if black plays d6, then white will play rook c1, forcing the bishop to retreat um, to a5. And then white plays a queen a4, which pins this knight. And well, what's white's threat in this position? White's threatening to play d5, and then takes the knight because it's pinned by the queen. So instead, white black can play h6. So instead, black could try to prevent that. Let's see, for example, by bishop d7. But then white will still play d5, and now after the knight leaves to say e7, this bishop on e5, which was only defended by that knight, is lost, and white gains a piece. So the other option for black in this position is to play d5, so attacking both pieces right now. And if black were to play bishop takes a1, now rook e1 doesn't work because white, because black can play bishop e6. So instead here, white decides to allows the rook to be taken. So here, and now the rook e1 idea still works, even if black plays bishop e6 because of queen a4. So let's see, queen a4. Now there's two pieces attacking this knight. Well, there's only one pawn defending it. So black doesn't really have many defenses. So he can try to play queen b8. But then white plays rook takes c6, which opens the position. And after something like this, white has a pretty strong attack on the king. None of black's pieces are defending the king, and white has an advantage in the form of an attack right now. So that was the first one. So the second position we have here is both sides have the same amount of material, and it seems that black, after white moves right now, black will castle next move, which will then cause the position to become pretty equal and drawn. However, here, white plays e4, which is a pretty aggressive move because now after d takes e3 and white will play rook takes c6. So then after b takes c6, notice that after queen d6, that this king can't castle anymore. So now white has sacrificed a rook for a knight, but in exchange, white has a pretty aggressive attack on black right now. And white's now threatening to play bishop takes c6. So then after black defends, what's one way for white to attack black right now? So just
Knight f7.
knight f7. Yeah, that's a potential idea. And let's see, what if king takes f7 then?
d7.
Queen takes d7.
And if it goes up, and then if it goes up, you can use a bishop to take the pawn. Maybe the queen will take back. This queen will take or something like that.
So let's see. So if king, let's say king g6, so then what's the way for white to try and attack the king right now?
Bishop e4.
Yeah, so bishop e4, checking the king. And right now there's not many places. In fact, yeah, right now, well, it's a pretty bad position. So after say king h6, how can white checkmate the black king now?
Go queen to h3.
Yeah, and after king g5.
Pawn f4.
F4. There's a stronger move for white right now. White can checkmate the king.
Queen h4.
Yeah, so queen h4, checkmate. And let's say, what if king f6 then?
F takes e3.
Yeah, so f takes e3. So let's say the king goes to e5.
Queen f5.
Queen f5. However, then the king will go to d6. The king will go to d6. And after white plays a rook d6 and king c7, now the king is near the queen, and the queen can defend him. So instead, there's a better
Queen
move in this
e7.
position. Yeah, queen e7. It's actually a checkmate because of the pawn and bishop. So let's see. So knight f7 is a pretty good idea. But instead, white can also play queen e5 check, and after king f8 and f takes e3 and f6. There's another way for white to attack black right now. Does anyone see it?
Is it knight h7?
Knight h7. However, then black will play rook takes h7.
It's e6, knight e6.
Knight e6 is another way to check the king, but then bishop takes e6.
And then you can take back, I guess. Then it's still even, I guess. But at least your queen is attacking their side more.
Yeah, so the queen is attacking, but white doesn't have any other pieces.
As you see, the king has nowhere to move. So we just need one more check and we win.
However, there isn't really any more pieces to give check. And black's going to try play rook e8 next move and attack the queen. However, here black can simply let's see. Wait, where again?
Queen d6.
Queen d6, checking the king. I'm pretty sure. Oh yeah. So after queen d6, let's see. The king will go to e8. And there is still some attacking. Actually, no, there's not really any more attacking chances for white because black is threatening to take the pawn on e3 next. But instead, white can just take the pawn on f6. And after g takes f6 and queen takes f6, then after king e8 and queen takes h8 check, white has a pretty strong attack. So let's see what white can do after king e7. So white can go queen e5, and after king d8. Then what can white do right now?
Knight f7.
Knight f7, and then king c8.
Knight d6.
Knight d6. Well, then black can play knight d8.
Bishop h3.
Bishop h3. But then what if the bishop takes h3?
Queen e8.
The queen e8. However, white doesn't really have many pieces attacking right now. And queen takes ace8 doesn't work because of queen e3 check. So right now, even though white has two pieces attacking, black also has the bishop and potentially the queen also defending. So instead, what white did in this position, okay, so in this position is to play h4. Wait, maybe not this position. Okay, let's see. So f6 and rook takes f6. Yeah, so to play h4, white plays h4 in this position, potentially allowing, because white could potentially advance these pawns to get a passed pawn. And after knight takes h7, now white has white has three passed pawns, but the two passed pawns on the side of the board are pretty powerful, and white could advance them down the board. So let's see, so king c8, and so after so here after black tries to escape, then white manages to trade queens, or to attack black at least. Well, and this is a pretty black isn't really in a good position right now because of these pawns, and also because of the aggressive position of the of white's pieces, and the rook on a8 and the bishop on d7 aren't in a very good position. They're not developed. So white has a pretty good position right here. So the next idea is the idea of pawn grabbing. So sacrificing pieces to gain a pawn. So in this position, black has just played queen b6, and now black's threatening to take the b2 pawn. So then, in response, white tries to be aggressive and move knight d2, potentially because now if, let's say, knight takes d2 and then bishop takes d2 and then queen b2, white can have a what's it called? White can have a pretty aggressive position. For example, after rook b1 and queen takes a2. Well, the rook is developed. But in this position, instead of taking the knight on d2, black chooses to take the pawn on d2 instead. which is a pretty strange because this knight is undefended and white can play knight takes e4. However, black can gain the pieces back in this position through a tactic. So does anyone see how black can do that?
Queen b4.
Yeah, queen b4. And let's say knight d2.
You need the bishop.
Yeah, and then the bishop is taken. So even though that move looks strange at first, black actually can take advantage of the fact that these two pieces are undefended and can't defend each other in one move by forking them with the king. So in the next position, so here, let's move. So now black has taken a pawn, but in exchange, now the white rook can potentially move to d1, attacking the queen, and then it can grow aggressive. For example, by moving to d3, b3, and then along this line. So then the queen goes to b6, and white plays e4, attacking the center. And after d6, then white plays f4. So what white wants to do is to advance his pawn, develop its pieces, and gain control of the center. So even though white is behind by a pawn, white still can potentially control the center and gains the initiative and try to attack black. So black plays g6 and then allows white to play e5. And now, as you can see, so right now the rook moves to b1, and white plays e6, which is a pretty aggressive move, because now after e6, it controls two squares which are very close to the king. So black takes, but white doesn't take, and instead plays knight g5, because white wants to attack black right now, so wasting a tempo taking back a pawn wouldn't be a very good idea. And this pawn is actually going to be attacked by black. So instead, white moves knight g5. And after knight g5, white develops all his pieces. So this bishop moves to b5. Now the bishop is attacking black, and black is forced to defend by moving king f8. So why can't black try to defend through something like bishop d7 right now?
Knight e6.
Yeah, so knight e6, and let's say queen c8.
Knight takes G7.
Knight takes G7, and yeah, right now white just gains a free piece after King F7. Then well, how can white keeps the piece?
D7.
Uh,
Takes D7 using bishop.
yeah, white can take on D7. Well, and white is black is behind by a piece. So black doesn't do that and instead tries to black plays king f8. And then white brings even more of his pieces into the attack. So white first takes a pawn and then brings the bishop into the attack. After bishop e3, let's say, so queen a5. So right now, so why couldn't black just take the queen on d1 right now, and then after rook d1, and then a takes b5.
Rook D8 checkmate.
Not quite, but it's almost. But right now, it's not a very good position. So white has many ideas, and these pieces are very strong in particular. Of course, so how can white continue the attack right now?
Castle.
Yeah, so castles, and after bishop f6, what can white do right now?
Knight D5.
Knight d5. And well, I mean, even if the king goes to g7, so even if the attack doesn't succeed, also in this case, it's a pretty aggressive position, but white always has the option to just take the bishop on c8. And now white's ahead by a whole piece. Of course, here, so what's one thing? What's one thing that so after king g7, what's one way for white to attack, continue attacking black right now?
Knight f6.
Knight f6. It's slightly weaker because after bishop takes f6, now this pawn is threatening to, well, it's not threatening to take right now, or actually, yeah, it is threatening to take right now. And now white is still winning because after this position, white could just, this bishop is still open. So after rook takes, then pawn takes. This passed pawn is a very powerful piece, or a very powerful. And it doesn't look very good for black right now. However, there is another potential idea, which is to take the pawn on e7. So after knight takes e7, let's say, well, if the bishop takes, it won't be good, because after rook f7, the king to g8 wouldn't be good because of rook takes, and this could, why would the king going to h6 not be good for black?
Knight h7.
Yeah, so knight h7. Let's see. How actually black can play g5. And I don't think there's a way for white to continue. Yeah, because if white tries to white takes e7, then the rook will take. However, white can just play, for example, knight e4, check, and if if black tries to defend through something like g5, white can take on e7 and threaten to take afterwards. So even though the material is even, actually white's ahead by one pawn right now, and white has the potential to, or white's not ahead by one pawn, black's ahead by a knight, but white's attacking black, so white has a lot of potential to attack black and win. So I guess we can continue analyzing this position. So here, after these two moves, let's see. Well, this position already doesn't really look good for black. So right now, so I guess, okay, let's just, see what we've done. So after knight d5, well, black is pretty lost right now because of the attack. So I guess, so instead of that, So if black didn't study this opening and didn't want to that attack to happen, what black could have done instead was to play. So instead of playing d6, one variation that black could play was to play e5, because now this blocks the center. And if the center is blocked, white can't really attack black anymore. So for example, after f4, then black just plays d6, and now black is, the position is pretty equal right now, because even though white is behind by a pawn, white still has a slight advantage in development. However, since black's position is, since the center is closed because of these 4 pawns, white can't really attack black. So then the game would go on. This is a pretty equal position. One of white's ideas could be to try and move f5 and then in the future attack on the king side, while black would try to take advantage of the queen side majority and attack the queen side by moving the pawns down there. So I guess if you haven't already, you could join the intermediate rapid, and I guess I'll paste the link in the chat. And there's still 3 more minutes until it starts, so I guess we could try to talk about the next idea, or rather start talking about it. So right now, just a minute. Wait,